Hello Kitty, me gusta mi titties, me gusta mi booty, me tomo selfie con filtro Hello Kitty.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2
Can't
of
believe it.
I know Dangerous Games Pod. So we went all last year, and we started in February last year. So we thought we would start in February of this year. We had a little bit of a later start, but you know what? We are busy. We are moms. We have
Yes.
things going on, and sometimes that just happens. So we're not sorry. I'm Courtney. I'm with Reckless Cards. You might not know me, but you most assuredly know my famous co-host, Sarah from Mrs. Squirt's Cards. She is the most wonderful, beautiful, awe-inspiring woman that I have ever known. And I am so lucky to call her a friend. How are you, Sarah?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I think, there was something somebody said to me, like if somebody from the Midwest is like, if you're like, how are you? And you're like, I'm surviving. That's what I am. I am surviving.
I am surviving as well. My computer will be back on in just a second to give us more light. But
We have the invisible Sarah. So our first episode is going swimmingly for this season.
I think this is our sign to not disappear for
Ooh,
a while.
that's creepy. Yeah, we
Um,
need to just keep going.
our
Taking
com-
the little bit of the break at the end of the year. We're having a little rusty start. So
well, I think our computers are too, so it's just kind of like it's been one thing after another tonight. But we got this.
we're here. We're
We're
surviving.
by
You know what it
candlelight.
is? I think it's because we're doing like one of the more horrific episodes that we've done.
Oh,
And
what are we doing?
we are doing so tonight we're going to talk about Randall Woodfield.
Oh, the guy from Oregon.
Yeah, you should know who he is because he's one of your people from out there.
One of my people. I'm sorry, I don't really associate with killers, so I appreciate it, but
Do you associate with Green Bay Packers?
no.
Okay, so I guess he is
No.
not your people, but he is from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I
A
think
lot
I've
of
heard of him a
serial
couple
killers
times.
from your neck of the woods. A lot of serial killers out
You
your
know
way.
what? It's on each side of the coast, west and
There's
east.
nothing to do. We had some serial. We had Gacy and Dahmer and
You had some crazy ones in there too. Don't act like your middle area is fine.
yeah, we had some not great ones out here too. So
Mm-hmm.
mostly a lot of ugh, a lot of serial killers in the 70s. So that is a thing to think about. I don't know what was going on back then, but people were a little bit more savvy
Nothing.
and killy at that time.
Nothing was going on.
Everybody thinks social media is so bad, but I think there were now there's been less serial killers since we've had social media. You're gonna get caught,
Oh, you're gonna get caught. There's enough cameras in this world nowadays.
Yeah.
You will get caught.
Someone's gonna see you doing what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is a two-parter just because he was prolific and there's a lot to go over. So we're gonna for season 2, episode 1, we are going to start with the double life of Randall Woodfield, the I-5 killer and former Green Bay Packer.
So gross.
Yeah.
So gross. Nope, definitely not a Packers fan, so I don't know anything.
He didn't really
know.
play for, he didn't really play. He's a scumbag and he didn't really play for the Packers. So we can't even I'm a Bears fan and I can't even really be like, oh, the Green Bay Packers had a serial killer because he didn't although I feel like they knew more about him than they let on. And I'll explain why as we go on. All right. So there's only a few professional athletes that have ever been serial killers, and the next one, my next case after this one will be another one of these serial killer sports professionals, which is crazy that there was more than one. But I have two. I have two that I'm covering. Randall Woodfield is the first, and Robert Rozier is the second. So he'll be the next one that I do. And his was even crazier because he was in a cult.
Ew.
Yeah.
Charlie Manson.
Yeah, like Manson, but not. It was in Florida, so a little warmer, a little weirder.
It matters.
It doesn't matter. It wasn't a hippie cult. It was a different kind of cult. So today we're going. But Randall Woodfield was the most prolific. Like, he killed so many people and was and beyond that, he was just like a disgusting human being. He's still alive, so he is a
Correct.
disgusting human being. He lived a double life, one as a promising athlete from a respectable family, and the other as a cold-blooded serial killer.
Most do.
Yeah, it's so weird how they hide it. I don't think he hid it as well as some other ones do, and we'll get into that. He was disgusting. So, born on December 26th, 1950, in Salem, Oregon, Randall Woodfield grew up in a small seaside town called Otter Rock.
Mm.
His early years were rooted in Newport, which is very near Otter Rock, in
Yep.
an upper middle class household. Despite his family's comfortable status, his upbringing was fraught with challenges. It really wasn't, but he felt it was. He was the youngest of three children, and he was the only son, so he had two older sisters. His mother was a homemaker, and his father was an executive at Pacific Northwest Bell. So he grew up in a very idealistic family, very well to do.
Right.
His mom stayed home and took care of everybody.
Not
He had-
poor.
No. And his parents were married, and his sisters, he had very sweet, nice sisters. His family was well known and respected, and Randy was popular when he was in school. But his sisters overshadowed him, and that was a problem. You'll see that he has problems with women forever, and it might have started with his mom being very much a perfectionist, and his sisters just constantly overshadowing them. Both of them they were academic superstars. One sister became a lawyer, and the other one was a doctor when they
Oh,
graduated.
wow.
Very successful women, very strong women in his life. And he struggled to find his place in the family dynamic because of this, which is just, to me, it's just because he's weak. His mother's he was not beat, he was not molested, his parents weren't
Yeah.
drug addicts. Like, all of his stuff is like internalized.
Like a
Of
weak
own,
ego.
it is. It's his own like perceived defects and like his anger that people in his family were doing better than him. His sisters specifically. So his mother's perfectionism and his father's insistence on athletic achievement set a high bar for Woodfield from an early age. So he might have had some of that like alpha machoism from his dad too, which coupled with his sisters being, more impressive than him, maybe it messed with him psychologically. While he showed promise in athletics, particularly as a standout wide receiver on PSU's football team, there were troubling signs beneath the surface. Even in his youth, now this started young for him, Woodfield exhibited frightening behavior. At the age of 13, he was caught peeping in windows and exposing himself. 13 years old. Despite these red flags, his coaches at the time chose to overlook his actions, perhaps blinded by his athletic prowess.
Yeah.
As Woodfield progressed through college and into adulthood, his brushes with the law became more frequent. Convictions for indecent exposure in both Washington and Oregon underscored deeper issues that were simmering beneath the surface. Despite his outward successes on the football field and his involvement in Christian organizations, because no perverts have ever come out of a Christian organization.
Or just a church
In
organization,
general,
period.
you absolutely cannot be a pervert if you're involved in church.
Never.
Mm.
Never.
But he was involved with the Campus Crusade for Christ and the
Yeah.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Woodfield's troubled past would eventually catch up to him in the most horrifying way imaginable. Could any of these things have been prevented? His athleticism was so impressive that his coaches would help cover up much of the trouble he found himself in. And upon graduating high school, his crimes were expunged. So everything that he did before he turned 18 was all wiped away.
Huh.
Randall Woodfield did demonstrate exceptional skill on the football field. While he attended Newport High School, his talents quickly caught the attention of coaches and scouts alike. As a wide receiver, he possessed a rare combination of speed, agility, and a natural talent that set him apart from his peers. Woodfield's high school football career was marked by numerous accolades and achievements. Scouts from collegiate programs regularly attended his games, eager to recruit the promising young athlete. His exceptional performance on the field earned him statewide recognition and solidified his status as one of Oregon's most promising football prospects. Upon graduating from high school, he attended Treasure Valley Community College because, again, his grades were not all that great, even though he was good at football. Ultimately, though, he did transfer to Portland State University, PSU, where he continued to showcase his exceptional abilities on the gridiron.
Where was Treasure Valley?
It's like a community college near there. It's
Out
like,
in Newport?
yeah, like Newport or Otter Rock. It's just like it's like some like small like nothing college that like
I only asked because like Montana's called the Treasure State, so
Ah.
I was just like, well, that'd be kind of weird.
I know it had to be something local. Because you have to for like community colleges, you have to like reside in that county typically too.
Yeah.
During his tenure at PSU, Woodfield became a key player for the Vikings football team, making significant contributions as wide receiver. His speed, agility, and sure-handedness made him a favorite target for quarterbacks, and he quickly garnered attention from NFL scouts. Woodfield's performance on the field earned him several prestigious awards and honors as well. Among his accomplishments were multiple selections to the All-Pac-8 conference team and recognition as an All-American wide receiver. His impressive statistics, including yards per reception and touchdown receptions, solidified his reputation as one of the most promising prospects. So he just kept doing. First in high school, he was one of the most promising high school players. In college, now he's one of the most promising college players. He's just very impressive. His coaches in college seemed to like him. They called him gentlemanly and easy to coach. While he had been popular in high school, he was more of a loner in college, and teammates said he didn't have a lot of friends and he was pretty quiet. Which changes. He goes back and forth between this like very outgoing person and this kind of weird loner who says like weird things and makes people uncomfortable. Some of that may have been direct correlation to the fact that despite his high school crimes being expunged, he had been arrested 3 more times while attending PSU.
Jesus.
In 1970, for vandalizing his ex-girlfriend's apartment, he broke in and just trashed it.
Sounds like a winner.
Yeah, and in 72 and in 73, guess what it was for?
Rape.
No, not yet. Indecent exposure again. He can't keep
Oh,
it.
Jesus.
He just couldn't keep it in his pants. He had to show it to people. He was very proud of it.
Well, I mean, can't be upset with the guy if he's proud of it.
He was constantly showing it off. He's like, you know what? I want to show you something.
You know, they didn't have
my
only
little friend.
they didn't have only snakes back then, so nobody could go see it.
No, I mean you're gonna be interested. He really likes to show off his little because it's more. It keeps getting more and more. He tries to make a career of it at one point.
Oh.
So his personal life was a mess. He's a criminal. He's disgusting. He's a pervert. He's showing his wiener to everybody. But scouting reports praise Woodfield's exceptional athleticism, route running ability, and knack for making clutch plays in critical moments. NFL teams started to take notice, and his draft stock soared as he prepared to take the next step in his football career. Woodfield eventually dropped out of PSU with a mere 3 semesters left. He would have had a bachelor's of science in physical education. This was for the best because this man should never be around children and teaching physical education. So that might have been for the best. He did, however, get drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 17th round of the 1974 NFL draft. The Packers did not do their due diligence about
Apparently not.
They did 0 due diligence. They're like, this guy's impressive. We're going to draft him. But we're not going to look into any of his off-field antics.
Why not?
Why would we do that?
Why would we do that?
Never do that.
That would be the 70s, though. So, yeah. I mean, maybe they're just like, we all do drugs and we all like things. Maybe whatever.
It's okay to our wieners. It's fine.
I'm telling you, only snakes never came out.
I'm telling you, Packers, some of the Packers players have a history of liking to show off their wieners. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers, look at Brett Favre.
I'm sorry, I'm not looking, but I will take your word for it.
Well, I mean, I wasn't looking. I know that I know
I know
have happened. So. But Woodfield struggled to make a significant impact on the field due to various factors, including injuries and inconsistent performance. In 1974, Woodfield was offered a 1-year contract to serve as a skilled football player with the Packers for $16,000.
Wow, that's like nothing.
It seems like nothing, but the average pay for a football player at that time, like a regular guy, not like,
Mm-hmm.
like you're thinking Bart Starr from the Packers got like $100,000, like 20 years before
That's
this.
so crazy. Like,
But people they thought that was insane that they paid him that much, even
course,
So it was,
yeah.
but 16,000. The average in the 70s was like between 20 and 60,000. So 16
Jesus.
for a brand new unproven guy was pretty good. And on top of that, the deal came full of bonuses. Like he had lots of bonuses that came with it. So it was 16,000, but he would get an extra $2,000 if he caught 25 passes and 3,000 if he caught 30. So
Jesus.
that would take him up to 19,000 if he performed well. But in the end, he got cut during training camp. He didn't even get to go and play the season. They cut
So they
him.
didn't get none of those bonuses.
Nothing. He didn't immediately go back to Oregon though, because I think he was like ashamed. So he played the 1974 season with the semi-pro Chiefs from Manitowoc. So 2 things. He went and did that because he was hoping that the Packers would see him playing still in Wisconsin, be like, oh, maybe he was good. Maybe he just had like, the yips or something and bring him back.
Right.
And 2, Manitowoc. Do you know why Manitowoc is famous
No.
in Wisconsin? Did you see the Netflix documentary to Making a Murderer?
Nope.
Oh, well, for any of our listeners who saw that, Manitowoc is where that all took place. So weird little tie-in, but yes. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh, Manitowoc making an appearance here. And he also had to get a job because obviously playing for a semi-pro wasn't nearly as lucrative as playing for the Packers was. And so he went and built trucks at the Oshkosh plant in Appleton, Wisconsin. Which Appleton, Wisconsin, shout out Appleton, Wisconsin, beautiful. It's so pretty there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't deserve having Randall Woodfield there. With his football career over before it had even begun, and there was like actually a lot of rumors that Randy was actually cut from the team for once again exposing himself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, rather than just his subpar performance, they're like, yeah, actually it's not okay to show off your ween, so you're off the team. So,
Wrong job. Sorry.
yeah. There were at least 10 instances of him being reported for indecent exposure across the state of Wisconsin. And the Chiefs also ended up cutting him. They're like, yeah, no, this is too much.
What?
So Woodfield tucked his tail and he headed back to Oregon at the end of 1974.
I mean, he tucked his ding-a-ling.
He didn't. He never tucks it. It's always out.
It's always there.
It's always there. So he leaves Wisconsin. He was there like not even a whole year. He heads back to Oregon. Now, 10 instances. And it's worth noting that the Packers refused to talk about this guy, even like as recently as like 2012 when, and we'll get into that in the next part, but more stuff has come out in like the recent years. They will not talk about him. They're like, no comment, no comment. And he didn't even play for their team. He was like up to the training team and that was it. But
wow,
they will not talk about what happened and why he was there, why he was kicked off the team. A lot of people will say you can't link what happened next to his perceived failures. It's a significant leap to link his athletic disappointments with his later criminal behavior. Crime is complex. It's a phenomenon influenced by a wide range of factors, including physiological, social, and environmental variables. Less than a few months after his return, though, from Wisconsin, feeling enraged and humiliated, he started directing his rage and self-hatred towards numerous female victims. Like it happened. It started. He escalated from like indecent exposure. He did break into his girlfriend's house. He went from that to getting kicked off the football team, having to go back to Oregon, not having graduated college, and he escalated like immediately, really terribly. Woodfield initiated his criminal spree with a string of 5 reported robberies and sexual assaults.
Jeez Louise.
Described as muscular and athletic, he attacked women with a knife, coercing them into performing oral sex before stealing their money. In 1975, Woodfield was apprehended in a decoy sting that was created due to the crimes he himself was committing. Like they put out a decoy because of these strings of robberies and sexual assaults.
Just to get him.
And
Wow.
they didn't know it was him, but yeah. And he fell for the bait. He attacked a female officer.
What an idiot.
He confessed to the crimes, attributing his actions partially to a lack of control over sexual impulses, which he claimed was exacerbated by his use of steroids. So he's like, hey, I can't control myself and I have roid rage. So this
Oh, wow.
this is what's happening to me.
Oh, my God.
As a result, he was sentenced to 10 years, but he only served a mere 4 years of the sentence and was paroled.
Of course he was. Because he's considered non-violent, even though he's probably...
Sexual
Obviously, he
assault
is
and
violent.
non-bribery. Yeah. I don't know how he only served 4 years. He is very charismatic, like to this day, like,
Mhm.
and we'll get into that as we go on. He probably seemed like very charming. He is very capable of being a very charming person when it suits him. So, if you ever wanted proof that a person cannot be rehabilitated by the American correction system, Randall Woodfield would be the centerpiece of that argument.
Hmm.
After serving 4 years for his violent crimes, Woodfield was back on the streets. However, because he's charming, his former teammates threw him a welcome home party, and he even made it
Wow.
back in time for his high school reunion, which he attended. For all the bad things that had happened in his life, he seemed oblivious to it all. He had a really good way of just being like, and like disassociating from the stuff he does. And he never, ever, throughout this whole thing, shows any sign of remorse, no remorse, not even apologize. I think he doesn't even pretend to apologize. He has zero remorse. He's completely unemotional about all of it.
Oh.
And he does some really heinous things. The next, then this one's pretty bad, like what we're talking about today. But the next one, it's just like nothing but trigger warnings for the entire thing. Because this one, we're gonna kind of like his history, where he started, obviously first crime spree, this, and then the next one we're gonna get into his victims and how he was caught. So he refused to go back to school because they tried to talk him in, like, you only have 3 semesters, just go back and finish, and then
Right.
get a job. And he was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And so then he would bounce from one job to another, bouncing, just like menial labor jobs, factory work, just nothing sustainable, nothing. And he also always felt like he was above all of this.
Oh, of course. That's the ego. Because he didn't really... Yeah.
He would bounce from one girlfriend to another. He never stuck with anything, and it was just like he thought he was too good for it, to the point that he even sent in naked pictures of himself to Playgirl magazine
Oh
in
my God.
hopes of getting paid to expose himself. Apparently, like he's like, I really like to show my penis off, so maybe I can get money for doing that. He got a letter from them saying he was in consideration for a photo shoot, so he was very excited. And while waiting for his big break, he started his most horrendous crime spree ever. There are very few ex-professional athletes who become serial killers or have killed more than one person. And I wanted to touch on serial killers and our fascination with them before we dive into part 2 of Randall Woodfield. Back in the 1970s, FBI agents Robert Ressler and John Douglas, which I'm sure most people who listen to true crime are familiar with those names because they came up with the term serial killer. They wanted to distinguish these criminals from mass murderers or spree killers.
Right.
The 70s were like a heyday for serial killers in the US. Lots of things made it easier for them back then. There were relaxed gun laws. Everyone was like very open with taking psychedelic drugs. Not that people don't do that now. It was very much like culturally accepted.
Yeah.
Plus there were huge highways and gas was very cheap. And, these killers could easily move around. There wasn't the security, CCTV, cell phones, so they could move around really unencumbered cheaply in their cars, and it was like the perfect breeding ground in the 70s. Woodfield wasn't even the only bad guy causing havoc on the West Coast at that time. So he wasn't the only serial killer out there. You had
Green River.
Ted Bundy was on his killing spree in the Northwest. He started in like 74. He killed 8 people in Oregon and Washington in the early like mid 70s. And then while that was going on, Gary Ridgway was doing his messed up ritual killings in Seattle, mostly targeting young women. So a
He
lot of
did some in Oregon too.
Yep, yep. It took a good 20 years before they caught him. But as soon as they did, he became known as the Green River Killer.
Mm-hmm.
After where they found his 5 victims. It was 5, right?
He has more. He's claimed more, but he was charged for 5, I believe. Yes.
So why are we so into serial killers? It's kind of twisted, right? But some evolutionary biologists say it's because we're wired to freak out about predators. We
Mm.
don't run from things like sunbathing or eating bacon, but the thought of a serial killer triggers something primal in us, like run for your life. It's basic human nature.
Yep.
So that is part 1.
I think we're just screwed up, but that's just no. For me personally, I like how you put that in there because for me personally, serial killers. I always wanted to be a criminal psychologist. I wanted to go to school, get my degree, and be a criminal psychologist.
Yeah.
There's something about the way people think. I don't care about 99.9% of the people out there how they think, but that 0.1% that are serial killers, I do for some reason, because it's just not
They don't think
natural.
normally. Yes.
And so therefore it's like, why do you think that way? Because it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's like you wanna know why.
You know why?
Um
I think it's scary. It's like, what about this person and the way that they think makes them do the things that they do? And like, what is stopping like anyone from doing
right.
that? Like, what about them specifically in their brain
It's so true.
makes them like able to do these things? Because you have to be able to, because I personally could never do something like that, and I do not have it in me. I do not have the ability to go out and do these heinous things. So there has to be something in them that's missing that makes them able to do this.
And it's intriguing. It is by far one of those things where you just I think we're built and wired also to ask why and to know why. I mean, as we're kids, you ask questions and it's usually just why. Why? And I think for me, it's just like literally why? Like, what made you think like this was okay? Like, why is it like billions of people live on this earth and only, let's say, I don't know, 100,000 killers are created? Why is it just those 100,000 that are broken? Like,
Yeah.
what's broken in them? And it's not like as society can we fix it? Because sometimes I don't think you can. I
No,
just
but
think
can
some
we
people are,
see it sooner before they do these horrible things? That's part of it too.
but I think even if you see it sooner, sometimes I just don't know. I think some people are just wired differently. And I don't know if there's really any way other than to kind of prevent them from being in society. I mean, there's been so many people who have reoffended that we've let out. May it be sexual crimes or murder or anything like that. How many of these victims could have been prevented?
All of Randall Woodfield's could have, because he was in prison and they let him out.
Of
And
course.
I think he's an old man now. I think if he got out now, he would still do it.
Where is he
He's
now?
he's in prison, and
Again.
yeah, he they caught him. So spoiler alert, they did catch him, but it took him a really long time, and I was getting so mad. So I think this is a good spot to end it.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and drop these like pretty quick so you don't have to like wait a whole week for the second part, because the second part's the real like meat and potatoes of like the crimes. I just wanted, because it is long, I didn't want it to be like a 2-hour long episode where we're like kind of going over
Right.
everything. And I really wanted to give his victims like enough. I wanted to talk a little bit about each of them. And it takes he has a lot of victims, so
I understand.
it's terrible. So thank you for joining us for the
Yes.
first episode of season 2. We are going to be doing some bigger and crazier and just all around more intense cases. I feel like this season than last season. Last season we were getting our footing. This season, you know, I really have some cases that are they're like intense cases. So, I mean, we're going to do, like I was saying, Robert Rosier, Ray Caruth. That's a 3-parter because how crazy that whole situation was. You have a bunch of cases that I know we've talked about you doing. So I hope you guys are ready for this season because it's going to be
It's reloaded.
It is, absolutely. So until next time, be safe, make good choices, and we'll see ya. Bye.
Hello Kitty, me gusta mi titties, me gusta mi booty, hoy me tomo un selfie con filtro Hello Kitty.